Welcome back to the Shop Mini RC, everybody. I'm Ken, and today we are looking at the FCX18 Hummer EV. And we're going to take this guy and we're going to put some rear steer on it. We've got the V5 remote that comes with it, which has four-wheel steer mixing right out the box. So we figured this is the perfect candidate, especially since the Hummer EV already has rear steer on that real one-to-one. So yeah, we might as well get it on here. It's electric, might as well have rear steer. Let's get into it, guys. Now, before we get too far, make sure you like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell. That way you know when new videos come up. The install on this guy should be super simple. It's literally just taking a front axle and throwing it on the back. FMS makes it very easy by having a skew, which we'll link down in the description below, to a rear axle that has a servo already on it. So let's get into it. There it is. There's the skew. Again, use that link down in the description if you want to order it. Helps the channel. If you want to support the channel, we appreciate that. Here's our hexes, our cross pins, and there's the whole axle. Even comes with the drive shaft. Literally, all you need is an extension for this cable, or you need to extend it in some way because it doesn't quite reach. It's a little short, but we've got some options here, and I'll put those down in the description below as well. We're going to just go ahead and probably take the end off this and solder on a new wire, so we're a little extended there. You can also just get an adapter or an extension plug. They have those on Amazon as well. It's about 10 bucks, but we got this pack. We've had it for a while. It's got both female and male ends. We could make an adapter here as well. Well, maybe we'll do that. I don't know. Kind of okay with just cutting the servo wire and doing it that way, but we could pull a female end and a male end. Let's see here. Maybe we'll just do that. It's easy enough. And then just solder them together, boom, and plug in and plug in. We just need to be able to reach our receiver here. Now, like I said, this transmitter has everything we need right out of the box for this Hummer to be able to do rear steer mixing, and we'll show you that later on in the video. But first, let's go ahead and get this guy totally installed, and yeah, let's get to it. Now, if you want, go ahead and take a screenshot or just reference this video later for your lighting plugs. You can see which plugs go where on the receiver. We have a 3 or 4 wire here. There's a couple wires going into there. It's a 3-pin that goes here. Another 3-pin with 2 wires goes there. And then over here, we've got a 4-pin with only 2 wires that goes there. So just that way you remember where all the plugs go when you put your body back on. That'll get us our body off. Super simple. And the first thing we're going to do is take off our rear wheels and tires. Those definitely need to come off if we're going to swap axles here. Again, this truck is totally stock. We haven't done anything to it yet. This is kind of the first thing. Where did our pin go? We just dropped our pin. Thank goodness for magnets. This is one of the best tools on the bench. We have a whole stack of magnets for when we drop something to the carpet. Just wave it across the carpet. And there you go. Next up is going to be removing our links and shocks. Super simple there. Just one screw on each side. And then we have our upper link here. It's literally 4 screws to do this. One for each shock, our upper link, and then our drive shaft. Because even though that front comes with a drive shaft, unfortunately, it's not long enough. So you definitely need a longer drive shaft. And you're going to be reusing the stock drive shaft. Okay. Yeah, this guy is much longer than what comes on our front axle. But it is awesome that this front axle setup comes with the servo and everything already installed. So literally, just swapping the drive shaft is pretty much the only thing you got to do here. Boom. And now this guy just goes on just like this one came off. Very simple. Let's go ahead and make sure our drive shaft is in phase. Let me show you what that means. In phase matters at higher speeds for sure, but you basically want to make sure the ears, the ends of your drive shaft here, the coupler, is facing the same direction. So you can see here this inner shaft, we've got it facing to the bottom and to the top, right? You can see these right here. They're the same. And then our output shaft from our transmission and our axle are both facing the same direction. So you're going this way on the axle and drive shaft or transmission, and then on the center portion of the drive shaft, we're going this way. Okay, so you can see that here. And so when we put this on, we're going to want to make sure we are not like this, where they're opposite, right? Those are opposite. We want to turn this guy one click over. That way they're facing the same direction. Our little ears there. That prevents vibration and whatnot, the higher speeds. Also, if you have extreme articulation, when you start to bend like this, you know, if you had a lot of articulation, probably not going to happen here, but on some rigs you do. And if that extreme drive shaft angle gets too extreme, it'll start binding because they are out of phase. So you definitely want to make sure it's in phase. All right, let's go ahead and put our shocks back on, shock and links, and our upper link here. We'll start with the upper link. Let's go ahead and get that guy in there. Get our long screw. Again, this is super easy, guys, like 2-minute job, 2-minute job. And then our links and our shocks. Just make sure you go in straight. Don't go at an angle and cross thread because you are going into plastic on these axle housings. You just want to be sure you're going straight. You don't want to strip it out or cross thread it. Also, don't over tighten. You don't need to use Loctite or anything like that. Loctite on plastic would be bad. Could cause the plastic to degrade and become brittle. You just kind of want to go until you're snug. Don't over tighten. Again, you're into plastic. You don't have to worry about it backing out or anything like that. Should be totally golden there. And let's get this side in. Ta-da. All right, so one thing that we have to watch for here is because these links are further out than the front links, look at that, we may end up having a little bit of clearance issues here on our rear. We have to probably just make sure we limit how far our servo turns, just so that we're not banging on our link here. If you've got some shorter ball joints, you can always do that as well. Basically the same that are on the front here, that are a little, put the links a little closer, you can move those in as well there. Because those are all part of the single mounting screw there, ball joint screw. It's not just a spacer. I wish it were just a spacer with a full threaded screw and you could pull that spacer out and thread it in further, but you can't. So just be aware that we're gonna have, oh man, hopefully it's not too limited. If it is, we will have to remedy that. We'll have to look at this and see if we can get some of these guys here on the back. I also noticed that our JST wires here don't totally match our color order, right? These are white, red, and black, and these guys go red, black, to yellow. So I'm just going to swap these around. I'm going to depin them. Super simple to do. You just use an X-Acto or like a safety pin or something, a needle, and you can kind of lift up these little tabs here, and then that'll let you pull the wire out, and you can reorder the wires however you see fit. It doesn't really matter. I just like to have them the same color. I mean, as long as you're going the correct colors to the correct pins when you plug it in, and they're the same, it doesn't matter what the order is, but I just want them to match. And again, I'll link to this whole bag of these guys. There's like 20 of them. I'll put a couple links down there. One is to just a straight adapter that's already made for you, and one is these individual ends. Again, you can get that whole bag for like $9 or $10, and they also make adapters. So you can just buy a thing of adapters. I like to have them individual. That way I can have a longer adapter if needed, or wire them however I want. Like I said, I could unsolder it or cut this wire and just solder it straight to it, or however you wanted to do it if you want to make clean wiring. So again, popping these wires out, super easy. Just get an X-Acto or something to go under the tab. That's probably kind of hard to see here, but and just barely lift the tab. And while you're doing that, I like to squeeze or pull with my 2 fingers here. You just kind of pull it out, pull the wire and push on the plug at the same time with your fingers. You can also just try to tuck the X-Acto underneath that little flap, and then it should let you just pull it out. See that? I lift the flap just enough, pulled on this just enough, and it came right out. Again, just don't pull hard and don't lift up too hard on the tab. You don't want to break the tab off. And then when you're putting it back in, you can see there's kind of a little piece sticking up. That's the side that goes on the tab. Again, this open portion faces down or up, depending on how you're looking at it, but the opposite of the tab. And then you can just kind of push it in and the tab should click. And now we're good to go. Nice and snug. And there we go. Now we match black, red, white, black, red, yellow. And then when this plug goes in, it's going to be matched black, red, yellow. Okay, now we're just going to solder these two together and we are going to be golden.
A few moments later.
Got our little adapter made here. And this guy's going to plug right into our channel 4, which is this bottom row. You can see our channel 1, our channel 3, and then our channel 4. So we'll just plug this guy in right there. Turn on our transmitter. Turn on our truck. All right. Yeah. So we are powered and working. So I guess at this point, I'll go ahead and show you how to change your settings on your remote so that you can get this rear steer mixing. I'm just trying to make sure everything works like I want it to. Awesome. All right, let's go into the remote. All right, so we're all plugged in now. We got our transmitter, turned it on. Now, before you do anything in here, I want to let you know that the channel 4, this is how we're going to switch modes, is currently set up to do your lights, right? When you want single click it, it'll change your light settings. But if you click and hold, it'll change channel 4 from left to right. Now, we've already got the servo installed, obviously, on these axles. And we don't want to fry the servo by having it go full throw left and right, especially with us hitting on these shocks right there. So I'm going to show you, but I don't recommend you do it, what channel 4 does normally. I'm going to go ahead and turn the truck on. And you can see it full locks. See that? And if I hold the button down, it full locks the other way. So that's what our channel 4 normally does. Full lock left, full lock right. There's no center. Thankfully, we have a servo saver. Otherwise, we'd be in a bad spot here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off for now. So you want to switch from that mode, which is full left, full right. And we used to do rear steer a lot where we'd switch the shift servo to channel 4 and use that hold and press to shift high and low because it's just full left and full right. So that's fine there. And then we'd put our rear steer here. So we'd have center, left, and right. And so that's how we basically flop the channels to be able to do rear steer. But now because we have that rear steer mixing, we can do this and it's super simple. You basically hold the bind button and press channel 4. Now when you do that, it changes it to a mixing mode. So now when we hold, you can see we've got steering on the front. Now when we hold this button down, you're not going to see anything, but it does switch it to rear steer. And if I basically give it a little bit of steering and you can see it switch, we'll hold the button down. And now we have crab walk. Hold the button down. And now we have rear only. Okay, so each time you press the button and hold it, it'll switch between modes. For some reason, we have 2 rear onlys. I think it reverses it. And I'll show you this more after we get everything installed. But there you go, right? So front only. Again, hold the channel 4. Mirrored. Hold channel 4. Crab walk, hold channel 4, rear only, and it straightens the front, and then hold channel 4, and it's going to reverse the rear only. So now we're reverse rear only. All right, so that's how you do it. Again, you basically hold the bind button, click channel 4, and it'll go between the modes. So now we've switched it back to the full left, full right. Click and hold, and we'll go full left. Click and hold, and we'll go full right. Okay. Which again, we don't want. So we're going to switch this to the mixing modes. All right, very cool. Now we need to figure out how to set our endpoints and our trims. So let's go through that. All right, so I do have another video. I'll put it right over here that goes deep into the transmitter and kind of shows everything you need to know as far as this transmitter is concerned for the FCX18 or any of the V5s really. And it shows how to do the rear steer and all that as well. But what I might as well show it here since we're doing it. We do need to be able to set our endpoints or our dual rate and our trim on the rear here. And the way you're going to do that is you're going to double click your bind button, and that'll get you into a mode where you can use the steering trim to trim and dual rate your channel 3, which is your shift servo, and then use your throttle trims to do your channel 4. Now I'd recommend flipping the truck over, putting it upside down, because I'll show you why. Basically you're going to end up with your throttle trim all the way forward potentially to trim this out, and then when you switch it back on it's going to want to go. Anyway, let's go ahead and do this. Double click, and now we're into a mode where essentially our throttle trim and dual rate will do our rear here. So you can see we've got rear trim, and we've got kind of if we go ahead and let's do this. Click. Oh, we can't do our steering. All right, so before we do that, let's go ahead and get out of here. And you can see our trim did start to go there. You can also put it in neutral, I suppose. That way, if you do have throttle, it doesn't go anywhere. All right, let's go ahead and get our rear steer working so we can see it work with the trim. We'll click and hold. All right, there we go. Now we'll double click. Now we're able to use, again, our trim on our throttle to trim our rear steer. And then our dual rate will adjust how much steering we have. So, and you can see on right here on our servo saver, it kind of starts to pop out when we go all the way to max dual rate. So because we're hitting on our shock ends here, we're just going to get it as maxed out as we can before the servo saver starts to kick in, which is right about there. Just check both sides. Okay, right about there. I'm probably going to make some clearance in there. So we're going to get that so we get some better steering angle out of that. But that's how you're going to go ahead and get your max dual rate. And then again, you can adjust your center using the trim here. Now, once you're done, you can go ahead and double click out, and you're going to be back to your throttle and steering trims just like normal, which is why we're going, is because, well, our throttle trim is now not centered. So we'll go ahead and center our throttle trim here. And then give it our max dual rate because we want max throttle. All right, so you can turn that down. We'll turn that all the way up. And now we're good to go. All right. Turn everything on and off. Make sure we're totally saved. And we should be golden. And again, if you have some weird shifting stuff going on, you can adjust your channel 3 dual rate and trim to adjust your shift servo as well, doing just like I showed. I wish there was some sort of confirmation, like a beep, when you engaged your rear steer. There we go. The only way you can tell is if you've got some steering going on and then you hold. And now you know you've got some rear steer going on. It would be nice to have a beep or at least a light flash or something. All right, I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to make some clearance on these portal housings. So you can see here, our portal housing is just barely hitting on there a little bit. And I think we can, I'm going to just take an X-Acto on the back of this portal, and I'm just going to trim it out right to the bearing. Just give ourselves a little bit of clearance because I don't have these sort of link and shock ends extra, and you probably don't either. So I'm going to go ahead and take it down just to make sure nothing weird happens or anything crazy. And then you can do it too if you want, or like I said, you can get the correct link and shock ends that'll tuck these in a little bit.
More moments later.
All right, you can see I kind of trimmed just a little tiny bit. I'm going to keep going, but it does give us a little bit of extra space. For some reason, this side seems to have more space than this side does. But that's okay. I'm going to keep trimming down. Basically, I'm just kind of going in here with an X-Acto, and I'm just kind of, again, be careful, don't cut yourself, but just kind of trimming this out, shaving it off. Could probably pull all this apart and use a Dremel to take it down a little bit, but I didn't want to take it all apart. I just wanted to kind of trim it out, trim it out, trim it out. Again, nothing too crazy, just trying to make just enough space so that we're not hitting on that shock. And then we can turn up our dual rate a little bit, which I'm going to go ahead and do right now, actually. That max dual rate now. Max dual rate. And it looks like we still can take a little bit off here. Let's go ahead and trim this. It'll make it easier. Now we can see in there. We can take off a little more. And you don't want to go nuts. You always want to cut less and then test, and then cut a little bit more and test, and cut a little bit more and test. Don't cut a whole bunch off at once, because once you trim it down, there's no going back. So just take a little bit off at a time. And again, we're not going to go too crazy. Just enough to make a little clearance there. All right, there we go. So you can see we're not pushing on this shock much anymore, maybe a little bit, but once it's in there, we're good. And for some reason, this side is definitely closer than the other side. You can see that, but this side I can go pretty much full lock and we're not hitting. I don't know if our screws are going in at a slightly greater angle here. Maybe it's more like this on this side and more straight on this side. And so it's giving us just a tiny bit extra clearance, but I haven't trimmed this one down at all. And we're not even really hitting the shock end. I mean, maybe a little bit there, but nothing compared to this side. And again, we're trimmed right now to be all on one side, but there we go. And you can see I took a little bit out, nothing crazy. Again, just to give us a lot more steering angle there without our servo having to kind of use the servo saver. So that's better. All right, trim just a little on this side and then we'll be done. We'll go drive it. Another thing I wanted to point out, if you feel like you're having to trim way too much, like max out your trim just to get it centered, you can always pull your servo horn off, the servo saver. It's literally just this single screw, pop it out, the washer comes out, the spring comes out, the top comes out, and then you can move the bottom one or two splines, go in the direction you need to get it more centered, so that ideally your remote's trim is centered and this is also centered. So make sure you trim your remote to center first before you pull this off. Make sure it's completely centered on the remote, and then you can try to center it here, and then you can do very fine-tune adjustments through the trim on the remote. But you shouldn't be having to trim, like max out your trim to try to get it straight. You should have plenty of movement left and right on your trim if you needed to. Anyway, this is going to be dope. All right, all good to go. There we go. Plenty of steering angle on that rear. Again, very simple. You just buy this axle with the servo. You need an extension, whether you make one or buy one, just an extension to get there. And that's it. Maybe a little trimming on your portal housings if you need, just right there so it's not hitting on your shocks, or you can get the shorter ball joints for the links and the shocks, which are the same as the front. These front ones are much shorter. Okay, and that gives you a little bit more clearance. But we were able to make it work, and there's no problems there. We're not binding on anything. Nice and smooth still. Just had to take just a little bit out, just a little bit. All right, let's get the body on. Let's go run this guy. Well, there you have it, guys. I hope you had fun watching the video. Hope you guys do this to your Hummer EV. It's too fun. And then, I mean, you can do it on any of the FCX18s. And especially if they have this V5, again, on the bottom of the remote, if it says V5, you've got that mixing in there, so you can do it on there. Doesn't matter which truck it is. Again, it's all about the remote. You can actually bind this remote, the V5 remote, to the older receivers and still get the steer mixing. So, but if yours comes with this, you definitely should look at just picking up another axle, because it's fun. Even if it's the LC80 or one of the FCX24s, if you happen to have this remote because you've got one of the other trucks that came with this remote, you can always bind this to like your old Power Wagon or K5 and then just throw a rear steer axle on there. Again, it's super nice that you're able to buy it with the servo and everything. That we don't have to do anything except, again, that extension wire. But that's it. Super simple. All right, guys, I thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, share, and hit that notification bell. All those things help support the channel. And yeah, why don't you put 4WS down in the comments below if you watch the video, and tell me what truck you want to put four-wheel steering on, if not the Hummer EV. Alrighty, guys, see you next time. Get out there, build something awesome, build a car, course, community, smash it, crash it, bash it. Don't break these expensive parts. Peace.